as a foundation, have 5 core areas of interest, one of which is health, incidentally, which is where Malarial Eradication Project falls under. We also have environment, which also sails into the malaria eradication. We have education, we have sports, and we have culture. So these are the areas that we focus on, and we are doing so much. As you know, we are also building a university, a sports university, which is going to anchor our education objectives. But we're also, doing the tourism project, Project Tourism, which we are hoping to launch sometime this year. But in addition to those, of course, the one that most people have come to embrace is the one Malarial Eradication, simply because before it all began, I went to Antarctica, which is a continent on its own, but the reason for that was to create awareness for the Malaria Eradication Project. I was there for some 9 days and met with some scientists, some researchers. There are 12 research stations in Antarctica, owned by the British, the Americans, the Russians, the Chinese, and so on and so forth. So the meeting with them was very important because I had to seek support and advice on malaria vaccine research. They were actually able to link me up with some American researchers, so we're working with them. I know that in the next few months we'll be making would have made some much more progress than most people would maybe envisage. But thanks to COVID, before COVID, things were people were not really keen, talking about vaccines and malaria. But you've seen that in the past 1 year, over 5 countries have been able to produce vaccines for COVID. This is because of the support given to them by the government. The Russians have their own, the British, the Americans, the Indians, they all have their own, of course the Chinese vaccines, even though they are not sure of the origin or the source of COVID. But they've been able to provide vaccines. And in Africa, luckily we've not had the same kind of effects of COVID as those have experienced in Europe or America. But our own problem is malaria. But not many people see it as a major problem. But if you look at WHO's figures, you're talking about over 500,000 lives being lost every year. And this is huge. But the attitude of the governments in Africa is so different from the attitude of governments in Europe or America. If African governments were proactive, if they think of public health as a major issue, by now there would have been some 1 or 2 vaccines supported by governments in Africa. But be that as it may, what is happening now is that we are engaging some professors in some universities here in Nigeria, supporting their researches. Is ongoing, but the environment here is not too conducive for that. But there are so many requirements. With the 2 research establishments in America, is going on well. So the trials will start. The clinical trials will start in the next few months of their efforts so far. So for me, that is number one focus. That is trying to get a vaccine for malaria, because malaria is everybody's problem. But you can imagine if we have the vaccines, it will almost certainly help to eradicate malaria within our systems. And but we are not just focusing on that alone, because it's a long-term solution. The other area of interest which we know has to be done, it has to be done, is sanitation. The environment in Nigeria or Africa generally are not what they should be. Refuse littering everywhere, refuse dumps everywhere. We know that mosquitoes thrive in dirty environments, stagnant waters. But what I see is that most people don't really care about the environment. We don't care about our environment. But for the mindset to be changed, we believe that the best thing to do is to manage our wastes. Waste management is the solution. Okay. Waste management in homes and offices. Make sure that refuse waste are collected properly and transported to locations where there will be recycling plants. So we're proposing to have a recycling plant in every local government area. Okay. It's a zero tolerance of waste in our environment. Zero tolerance that we are advocating for. You see, like now, and so I'm sure you know that for the past few decades, we've had environmental sanitation days, isn't it? What they're doing is nothing, because what they do is they carry wastes from some gutters and put them next door on the road, or from the road to gutters. That is not the solution. We're just deceiving ourselves doing that. So we when this whole process starts, and we talk about waste management, what is going to happen is that waste to be collected, they should be separated from homes into different color-coded bins. So you're going to have the ones for bottles, the ones for plastics, the ones for papers, the ones for other composts, food, solid food, and they are taken to the recycling plants where they will be further selected, and then, more importantly, recycled into useful products, finished products. Some of it will also be to generate electricity. When that is done sustainably, you will see that there will be a new Nigeria. Because it will be in two parts. The first part will be to get rid of the wastes already dumped, the heaps of waste dumped across the country, across the continent. When that is done, then we now manage the new ones to be created. We must not allow further dumpings of waste. So there'll be legislations, there'll be an act, to ensure that we have inspectors, health inspectors, environmental inspectors, technical inspectors. As a matter of fact, by the time we finish with this, we expect to have nothing less than 5 million people employed directly in this sector. Directly, from the manufacturers of the bags to transporters of the waste, to the technical people involved in the maintenance of the plants and the processings and the marketing of finished products. It's a chain, complete chain, and so it is not something that people should be looking at as being done just to please anybody. It's something that has to be done. It's an obligation for us to live as if we live in the 21st century. Not in the 6th century. But once we're able to manage our wastes, then the final stage would be to fumigate. Fumigation is a major part of it. I met the fumigation company that is based in Canada. They are happy to work with us over a 6 months to 1 year period to fumigate Nigeria. You know what's happening now with your fumigation that people do here. When you fumigate your home today, the mosquitoes will migrate from your home to the next door neighbor. When they fumigate, they come back to you. So we need to have a holistic approach to this. And so the fumigation has to be done properly, effectively. There'll be a lockdown of some sort.